Hello, ETF fans. Mike here with another video insight. Today, I'm going to walk you through our 3 daily updates that we do on our new content site. Just a little background. When we set out to build our content site, we we wanted to make sure that we created a workflow for our users and our subscribers to be able to best engage with our gated platform. And I've been in the ETF industry now for over 25 years. I know I don't look that old, but I am. And you know the the thing that I've always found, to be good at something and to truly follow something, you have to have process and discipline. As long as I can remember, there's 3 things that I've always done when I'm in the office in terms of tracking the ETF market. Every day, I wake up, I look at what happened across the markets in terms of performance through the lens of ETFs. So I break down the market across different asset classes, categories within those asset classes, whether it be US, international equities, thematic equities, what areas of the fixed income market, commodities. I want to know what happened within the ETF market. Were there any outliers? And that's all about what we do with our review and preview report. So this report, which I'll jump into now, is updated every morning before market open. And it's going to just give you, hey, what happened yesterday in the markets, sets you up for the day to understand. I like to do it through the lens of ETFs because ETFs are investable. If there's any major composite out there or index that you like to track, the odds are there's an ETF for that. So the way we set this report up is it runs off of the data that we feed into an AI agent that allows us to then focus in on areas of the market the way we categorize the ETF world. So first thing, there'll be a nice little macro overview. You'll note throughout the note there's going to be hyperlinks. So at every section, when I see macro overview here, this is going to link into our master. Looks like I'm not logged in. If you're not logged in, if you don't have an account, please note that everything in our content site that has a hyperlink goes to a free tool on our member pages. So all you have to do is click in and sign up, and it'll go there. I'm just going to sign in real quick, and it will remember my pathway and take me right to the dashboard I wanted to go to. So it took me into our asset class and categories dashboard, which is the entire ETF market grouped up by asset class, grouped up by composite, and finally grouped up by category and all ETFs. So these dashboards are an excellent way to track the market in real time. We have live stats. We have performance across every ETF. So over 4,400 ETFs just on this one dashboard, tracking flows, returns across the board, which you can sort and filter on. Going back over though to the content page, to the daily review and preview report, we'll give you a quick update. What happened? What was the major narrative yesterday in the market? And then we'll start going into the categories, our composites, right? So the first one will be US size and style. I can see, small cap value sold off pretty good yesterday. Large cap growth was the only one, shocker, that held on and provided a positive return across the 9 size and style boxes. Keep going down. I'll have all of the sectors. Consumer staples was the only fund that was positive yesterday in the market, with industrial selling off almost 1.5%. Note, all of these tickers are going to have links. So if I was like, oh, I want to know what's going on with consumer staples, just click that link. Now that I'm logged in, it's going to take me directly to the research page for consumer staples. This is all free data, so I can dive in, look at the different things that I want to see on consumer staples, track performance, flows, you name it, across the board, right? I'm not going to get into all the gated tools today, but just want to make sure you know that exists there. So you'll be able to scroll through this daily report, and the idea is, hey, what happened in the markets yesterday? I can see, silver, the miners sold off finally after a crazy run. They cooled down, and a little bit of a sell-off yesterday, maybe some profit taking, some narrative change with the stronger dollar. I'll then move into developed markets, emerging countries, fixed income marketplace, broken down across all of the key categories. Commodities, we'll break down what happened with commodities in the previous day, cryptocurrency, and we'll end the note with, what's on tap for any major macroeconomic releases and things like that. Take you 3 minutes to read through it, And if there's something that sparks your interest, as long as you've already set up your free account, you've got a pathway in to do a little deeper dive, all of that good information. So wanted to point that out. Head back here to the home page. The next report I want to talk about is the flows report. This is also published every morning before market open. And the flows report is all about what happened in terms of flows, a previous action, previous day, across asset classes, across categories. Was anything stick out, right? So we have all kinds of tools on our database to help you track across different categories, all that good stuff. But this report is to help you understand, hey, was there anything that jumped out in terms of out of the ordinary? So this whole report is set up to be outlier driven. It'll start with a broad summary, how much flows came into the ETF market, which asset classes had the most. Again, there'll be links into the proper dashboards where applicable. This report is used by a number of ETF issuers. So we like to highlight any brands that saw specific outflows, inflows. So I can see US Global was a top high velocity brand with inflows of 7.69% of its AUM base yesterday. Same thing, this ETF issuer flow analysis is hyperlinked to our league tables, which is a list of every ETF issuer, their AUM, their projected revenue, their flows. So if I just wanted to see, who was the top flow getter yesterday, BlackRock brought in 1.6 billion. Going back to the report, once we get through kind of that broad macro update, then we start highlighting high velocity brands, right? So Defiance, which you'll see here in a second, had some pretty high outflows across their single stock ETFs. But we'll go through the brands and we'll go into single fund movements. These are the largest absolutely daily flows moves. No, we put limits on this. We don't want to hammer you with so much information that it's not readable. So we only list the absolute top 10 inflows, outflows that were greater than $250 million. So it's going to be your biggest ETFs. I see IBIT brought in 426 million. Europe had a pretty big. IEV had 618 million come out. SPY had 1.75 billion. That goes back and forth every day. And then we get into the high velocity. So yesterday I can see Defiance had a bunch. And I know, because I read this every day, that these Defiance ETFs have been popping up a lot, these single stock Defiance ETFs. So this is a great opportunity to be like, well, RKLB, 107 million in. What's going on there? When I click on this ETF, it's going to take me directly to the research frames for that ETF. I'm going to go to the AUM and flows tab, and I'm going to switch this to be daily frequency. And this is pretty unusual, right? There's clearly a big institution or a big group of individual investors that are playing this, back and forth, right? Big inflows followed by big outflows, similar amount. So an interesting storyline there. And it's not just that one ETF. If you were to click through all of these Defiance ETFs, you'll see that. But that's the whole point of this report. Is the idea is to alert you of anything that jumped out as interesting. Today it was dominated by single stocks, but a lot of times you'll see other stuff out there. I can say, hey, Goldman Sachs Access US Preferred got a $41 million inflow, which represented 34%. So I'd be like, I might want to see what's going on with this ETF. I can click in there, go to my AUM and flows page. I'll see that's a fairly new ETF, a little over a year old, but just recently it started to pick up inflows. So, put that on my radar, especially if you're an ETF issuer and you're just tracking what's going on in the markets. So that's the general workflow there. And then finally, the last thing I like to look at every day and why we created the third report is the end of day snapshot, which is what we call our most active. But what's great about ETFs is they have become a de facto tool to make asset allocations, decisions for everyday investors all the way up to the largest institutions in the world. ETFs are an efficient way to make quick allocations in the market. So if you track those flows properly, you'll be able to understand where the money's going to go, because before you get the flows, you get the volume, right? So not only are you going to say, hey, what happened in the markets today as far as events that drove big market movements, but this report's going to give you that opportunity to say, hey, what's happening in terms of, market activity big outliers in volume. So just like the flows report, we'll give you a summary, asset class breakdown. So I can see equities traded 92% of their 30-day average yesterday, 167 billion. Commodities jump out at me right away, right? 269% of their 30-day average was traded yesterday. So I know that when I get to that section of this report, there's going to be a lot of activity. We'll start by asset class. We'll give you the top 5 categories traded. Any asset class that traded over 100 million that also had greater than 125% of their ADV. So there was 5 of them yesterday. We'll break down the ticker outliers. So I can see JP Morgan Beta Europe had a huge volume day, 688 million. So this will be interesting to watch to see if this was inflow or outflow activity. But same thing, this ticker will be linked in so I can see and track that ETF in more detail. And you'll be able to walk through and identify, what happened in terms of volume, which obviously not only alerts you of events in terms of performance and things of that nature, but also is going to be a precursor to where the money is going to show up on the flows report in the next few days. So just a great way at the end of day to go through, design this report. Takes a few minutes to read, give you links to go deeper if you so choose. But if you kind of ingest those 3 reports every day, you're going to be very up to date on what's happening in the ETF markets. You'll be able to spot trends quicker. And it'll just give you that kind of that workflow, that process, that discipline to staying on top of the markets through the lens of ETFs. So I hope you enjoyed this quick, I guess we'll call it a market musing, but just kind of an update on what we're doing with our ETF site. I'm going to start doing a little bit more of this. If you have any questions, whatever, reach out to team at ETF Action. The last thing I would note before I go, our whole content site is made possible because of our sponsors, right? We wanted to build a site that didn't have pop-ups everywhere. We wanted it to be a workflow generated site, but obviously it's costly to manage and operate and update this. And we're partnering with ETF issuers to get their brand out there, to get their thought leadership out there, and to do it in a way that doesn't destroy the intent of the platform, which is to provide you workflow to tracking markets through the lens of ETFs. So thanks a lot for taking the time to listen today. Hope you enjoyed this insight. I hope you get a lot of benefit out of our daily updates on our platform. And reach out if you have any questions. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks.